Hi, I'm Rowena, and I wasn't supposed to end up here. Not in this crumbling house, not with nothing but a folding chair and a bruised heart. But here's the truth they never wanted told this story. It starts with exile, but it ends with something much louder. So tell me, where are you listening from right now? A quiet morning coffee. A night drive with your thoughts. Wherever you are, buckle up. Because what I'm about to tell you is the story they tried to erase. The tires made that satisfying crunch on wet gravel as I turned up the winding drive like a scene out of a movie. Except this wasn't a movie, and there was nothing glamorous waiting at the top. What waited was a skeleton of a house, peeling siding, crooked shutters, a roof that looked like it had lost the will to live. No warm porch light, no welcome mat, just me and my receipt for $900 I parked. Sat there a moment in silence. The kind of silence that creeps up the back of your neck and taps you gently between the shoulder blades like, "Hey, you really did this." I reached into the trunk for the only thing that felt like routine, my folding chair. It had been with me for years, coffee shop mornings, beachside musings, fire escape writing sessions, but today it felt different, heavier. Like it knew it had been promoted from thinking spot to survival gear. I set it down on the gravel and sat, let the drizzle run rivers down my windshield. The air was thick, not with rain, but with something harder to name. Disappointment, maybe betrayal, definitely grief, but not the grief of losing something precious. The grief of realizing maybe it never really belonged to you in the first place, just 1 week before I was still in the family, still pretending, still playing my role, the quiet achiever, the fallback plan, the helper. We were sitting around the dinner table. Callista, my sister, was talking about her $15,000 energy reset retreat in Sedona like it was a medical necessity. My mom nodded like a bishop blessing a holy pilgrimage. "She needs this," she said, her wine glass glinting. "She's carried so much for this family," I tried not to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it wasn't. Callista had always carried drama, sure, but not weight. Not sacrifice. Then came the bomb. Rowena, Dad said, cutting into his roast, "You said you were transferring the funds last week. What's the delay?" I looked up from my plate, and for once I didn't hesitate. I didn't transfer the money. I said I bought something. Clink, cutlery froze. Callista's wine paused halfway to her lips. Mom blinked slow and sharp the way people blink when they're loading ammunition. "You bought something?" she asked. "I bought a house," I said. "It's a fixer-upper, but it's mine." The silence was thunderous. Then cool and low, my dad spoke. "You spent your savings on yourself." Callista laughed. Not the full laugh, just that smug, breathy kind that cuts deeper than shouting. "You bought a dump instead of helping me reset. That is so on brand for you." I kept my tone steady. I never agreed to fund your retreat. I just didn't say no out loud. Mom placed her wineglass down hard. "You've clearly chosen poverty," she said. "Don't expect us to support your delusions." And then came the final word, the hand raise from Dad, as if I was a child asking for extra dessert. "You want to be independent," he said. "Be completely independent." The next morning, my name vanished from the family group chat. Not a text, not a call. Just, "Do not come to Easter." No love, no explanation, just erasure. Back in the present. I unfolded that memory like a torn letter. I looked at the house. My house. It was ugly, and empty, and mine. The wind whispered through the trees like even the weather wasn't sure if it should be here, but I stayed seated. Let the cold sink in, let the silence settle into my bones. Not because I was strong, but because I was done begging to be seen. You know what hurts more than being screamed at? Being forgotten gently, like a file deleted without confirmation. Just a quiet little click and you're gone. That was my family's specialty. They didn't call me names. They just didn't call, didn't clap when I won awards, didn't underline my name on birthday cards. Callista once got a used Volkswagen for her 16th birthday. Dad cried in the driveway like she'd discovered a cure for cancer. Me, I got a store-bought cake with my name spelled wrong. No second N, just Rowena. No one noticed. I corrected teachers for years, but I stopped correcting my parents. What was the point? At some point, you realize it's not forgetfulness. It's a decision. Inside the house. It smelled like wet wood and old shame. I dragged in my suitcase, set it by the door, and hung a curtain, the one I'd saved from college. It immediately fell. Of course it did. I laughed, the kind of laugh that sounds more like a cracked sigh, then sat right there on the floor and stared up at the ceiling. Was this rock bottom? If it was, it didn't feel like a collapse. It felt like a beginning. Because the truth is, when the world stops pretending to love you, you start learning how to love yourself, and maybe $900 was a small price to pay for a life I didn't have to audition for anymore. I didn't know what healing looked like. Not the Instagram kind with lavender fields and wellness quotes in cursive. The real kind, silent, lonely, inconvenient. The kind that smelled like mildew and made your back ache from stripping paint off old cabinets. That was my life now. Me, a house full of history it never got to live, and a silence so loud it pressed into my ears like a drumbeat. But something about that silence, it wasn't just emptiness. It was space to hear my own thoughts again. Space to stop apologizing for having them in the first place. One night I lay on the couch, if you could call it that, an old threadbare thing I'd dragged in from a secondhand store. I had one blanket, scratchy and sun-faded, but it did the job. The floor creaked every time I breathed. The fridge wasn't plugged in yet. The walls made sounds I couldn't name. Still, for the first time in years, I didn't fall asleep wishing I were somewhere else. Not because this place was better, but because it was mine. I had peeled back enough drywall by then to know. Sometimes you have to live in the mess before you can fix it. And sometimes it takes losing your family to find your footing. A few days later, a call came from the only person in my family who didn't treat love like a bank loan. Aunt Chorus. She called out of the blue, her voice crackling like an old vinyl record full of scratches and warmth. "Hey, baby," she said. "I saw you weren't on the group chat anymore." I chuckled bitterly, digitally disowned. It's a new frontier. There was a pause, a sigh that held more than she could say. "I just want to tell you something," she said, soft but steady. "You were never the problem. You just weren't. Callista, that was your only crime." My throat closed up. Not from sadness, but from recognition. Someone finally said it. She continued, her voice growing firmer. "And when they come back and they will, don't you forget what this felt like. Don't you dare forget." And then came the knock. Not the friendly kind, not the hesitant. "Can we talk kind?" 3 sharp, deliberate raps on my door, like a summons. I peeked through the curtain. There she was, Callista, leaning one designer-booted foot against the cracked steps of my porch like she was posing for a lifestyle blog. Her sunglasses were the size of planets, her coat, cashmere belted cream. She looked like someone who got lost on her way to a rooftop brunch. Even still, I opened the door, and sure enough, she didn't disappoint. "Well, there she is," Callista said, stretching the word like it had an aftertaste. "The homeowner," I crossed my arms. "Is that why you're here, to marvel at the wildlife?" She smiled sugar-sweet. "No need to be defensive, Ro. I'm just checking in. You vanished. You know, after that whole spiral." That's what she called it. My spiral. Not independence. Not freedom. Not a boundary. I had every right to draw. Nope. To her, I had spiraled. Because I stopped funding her lifestyle. Callista stepped a little closer, her voice dropping to a faux concerned whisper. "Listen, the HOA's been sniffing around. Something about code violations, just a heads up." I stared at her. "You reported me." She blinked. "I'm just saying people talk. This neighborhood has standards." I didn't flinch. I wasn't about to play her game. She switched tactics fast like always. A dramatic sigh, a wounded tone, a well-practiced pout. "I'm in a bit of a bind pipe burst at the spa wing." "Total disaster," I thought, maybe just for a night or two. While it's getting fixed, I said nothing. She pushed on. "I can sleep anywhere." Even here. Like I lived in a cave, I should have laughed. Instead, I just said, "One night, don't touch anything." Her face lit up. "You're the best. Honestly, you always were. It's why people walk all over you." And with that, she breezed inside heels, clicking over my rotting floorboards like she owned the place I should have known. The next morning, I woke up to a bright light searing through the hallway. Not the sun. Something colder. A ring light. She had transformed my kitchen into a stage. My stained kettle replaced my mismatched chairs, rearranged my real life, repackaged for a live audience. She was midstream on Instagram, her voice dripping with performative concern. "We're here doing something really meaningful today," she cooed. "I wanted to show you guys where my sister, bless her heart, has been living." She panned the camera toward the cracked tiles, the yellowing linoleum, the chipped counter. "This place," she laughed, "is giving major generational trauma energy." A comment popped up on her phone, loud enough for me to hear. "Is this a shelter?" Callista laughed. "No, sweetie, it's my sister's house that did it." I stepped forward, yanked the phone off the tripod, and held it like a loaded weapon. "What are you doing?" she shrieked. "You want content," I said, my voice low. "Here it is. Get out." She tried to grab the phone back, her expression flipping instantly to martyr. I was just trying to help. She said people could donate. Or, "You mocked me in my own home?" I said, "You turned me into a sideshow." She blinked fast, then sniffled, gathering her purse and props. "This is what I get for being a good sister," she muttered. The door slammed behind her, and for the first time in weeks the house was quiet in the right way, a silence that felt earned, but Callista wasn't done. The next day, I saw the fundraiser, help my sister rebuild. Her name on the withdrawal account, my face on the banner. Photos I didn't know she'd taken me hauling trash painting walls, curled on my couch like a ghost. 18 on $340, donated out of sympathy. Donated to her. There's a special kind of rage that doesn't burn hot. It settles cold, calculated like frost climbing a window pane. That's what I felt when I saw the GoFundMe not fire. Ice Callista's caption read like a eulogy. "My baby sis has been through so much. Help me give her the life she deserves." My life she hadn't even told me. Not when she left. Not when she live-streamed from my kitchen. And definitely not when she posted that montage of herself driving away from toxic family energy with soft piano music and fake tears. She didn't see me as a person. She saw a pitch and it worked. 18,340, raised off my pain. Deposited straight into her wellness business. PayPal. The internet saw a generous sister, but I saw a thief with a ring light and good lighting. I tried reporting the fundraiser. The site said it didn't violate their guidelines. Of course it didn't. She framed it just right, left out just enough, let people assume the rest. That was Callista's magic, always letting others write the story. She didn't have the courage to say out loud, but this time I wasn't staying silent. The message came at 2:03 a.m. I almost missed it. Almost didn't check my phone, but there it was. A name I didn't recognize. Illegal LCC Co. "Hey, saw the GoFundMe. You didn't authorize that, did you?" I blinked, rereading it 3 times before responding. "No." Her reply was instant. "I'm a paralegal Colorado bar certified. This looks like civil exploitation, possibly wire fraud, want to talk receipts." My heart didn't race, it didn't skip. It steadied. Someone saw it. Someone saw me. For the first time in weeks, I felt something flicker, not just hope, but momentum. Her name was Elsie. She was younger than I expected, blunt in the best way and allergic to injustice. Within hours, she had me screen recording every story Callista had ever posted from my house, documenting timestamps, donation language, PayPal screenshots. She said it like a mantra: build the folder before you build the case. We called it the survival file. It started as a zip drive. By day 3, it had its own Google Drive section, color-coded, watermarked, time-locked. Elsie wasn't just helping me protect myself. She was teaching me how to dismantle Callista's game piece by piece, and the deeper we looked, the worse it got. Grant applications, partnership pitches, press kits featuring my house as the before photo for her healing brand. She had applied for a grant through a neighborhood program. Skyline Estates, HOA, claimed I was a displaced family member recovering from crisis housing, used my address, used me. Elsie read the application aloud like it was a confession. My sister lost everything, including our support, but I never gave up on her. I stopped her there, except the part where she did. By the end of the week, Elsie had drafted a cease and desist letter. It was ironclad, packed with legal citations, screenshots, and one very clear message. You may control the narrative, but not anymore. I signed the bottom line with a pen that shook in my hand. Not from fear, from the sheer weight of everything finally shifting. The storm was coming, and I was ready to stand still while it hit her. Callista had been teasing a big healing reveal for days, a live Q&A with her followers to clear the air and reclaim the narrative. The usual. She promoted it like a wedding hashtags countdowns teaser clips of her sipping tea in a silk robe, talking about setting boundaries and rising above. She had no idea I was already above her and still climbing. 10 minutes before her stream went live, Elsie's courier texted package delivered center stage. I almost didn't watch, but curiosity won. The stream opened with soft flute music, and Callista bathed in golden light, her expression radiant with faux peace. Hi, beautiful souls, she began. I know there's been noise, but we're here to center joy. She spoke in mantras and metaphors, deflecting harder than a PR intern in crisis mode. Then came the moment. A nervous assistant, maybe an intern, maybe a fan, turned employee walked on stage holding a manila envelope like it was cursed. Callista paused mid-sentence. The envelope landed in her hand. Her smile didn't disappear. Its shattered eyes scanned the pages, fingers fumbled, voice cracked. The livestream chat exploded. What's that? Why'd she stop talking? OMG, she looks panicked. Seconds later, static. The stream cut. No goodbye, no mantra, no affirmation, just silence. Reddit threads bloomed within minutes. Twitter sleuths got to work. Cease and desist live. Callista exposed. Fraudfluencer. People started tracing the GoFundMe money, cross-referencing with her wellness business, digging up photos, brand deals, non-profit pitches that didn't add up. She wasn't just losing followers, she was losing her mask, and the internet never forgets. Then came the message that broke it wide open. Not from a lawyer, not from a troll, from Skyline Estates HOA, the very same neighborhood association Callista had weaponized. We were unaware Callista Vale was using the Skyline Estates name to solicit funds. This misrepresentation violates our code of ethics. We are initiating a formal review. Please confirm or dispute the information she submitted on your behalf. Attached were copies of her paperwork applications filled with lies, painting me as her dependent, her project, her charity case. Reading them was like reading someone else's obituary. She didn't just steal my story, she rewrote it, made herself the hero, but now she would have to explain every lie, every dollar, every post, and I wouldn't have to say a word. The air in my house felt different after that, not cleaner, heavier. Like something sacred had settled in. A kind of closure. It didn't taste like revenge, it tasted like truth. And that was enough. The drive to Los Angeles didn't feel like a road trip. It felt like a closing argument. Every highway mile hummed with things left unsaid. Not rage, not revenge, just readiness. I wasn't nervous. Not anymore. The anxiety had long since calcified into something sharper, a stillness that comes from knowing you're not here to argue, you're here to witness. I pulled up to the Marriott Grand Ballroom just before sunset. A valet took my keys with a glance, his hands already reaching for the next car. I adjusted my simple navy dress. No designer tag, no borrowed jewels. Just fabric, skin, and spine. Around my neck, the silver locket my mother once mocked. She said it looked like flea market trash. Tonight, it felt like armor. The event was peak. Callista giant banners read, Callista Cares, Healing Families, one heart at a time. There were soft focus flower arrangements, mood lighting that made everyone look like a filtered memory, and a guest list packed with micro-celebrities, wannabe influencers, and people who said alignment instead of plan. No one noticed me slip in through the side. No one asked who I was, and I didn't tell them Callista was already center stage radiant under the white spotlight, her gown shimmering like she'd spun it out of moonlight and Instagram filters. Her laugh rang out polished and perfect, her smile practiced to the millimeter. She was the picture of a woman who had won. But pictures lie and live events don't have a backspace key. I sat near the back alone behind a potted plant tall enough to give me partial cover. Not hiding, just watching. The opening remarks rolled by like a TED Talk. Callista's voice smooth as silk, dripping in gratitude. Thank you to everyone who believed in the mission, who supported the vision. She mentioned the power of sisterhood. She mentioned resilience in the face of hardship. She didn't mention me. Not yet. Then came the slideshow. At first, it was predictable. Stock images, generic thank you notes. A clip of Callista handing out granola bars like they were currency. The crowd clapped politely, phones hovered, filters readied, then a flicker, one slide stalled, froze, glitched. Then it loaded. A screenshot. Plain white text over a message bubble. Let her rot in that dump. I gave them the GoFundMe link for PR. Cry for me, baby. Gasps rippled through the room. Callista turned slowly, saw it, froze. Next slide, she's good for sympathy points. Keep the cameras low, show the cracks, silence, not shocked silence. Sick silence, the kind that tells you the room isn't with you anymore. Callista's hand shot up as if she could swipe the image away with her palm. It's a tech glitch, she laughed weakly. Just something internal. We'll fix it. But no one was listening, the crowd was already tweeting. Then from the side of the ballroom someone stood up, not a sponsor, not a PR rep, Aunt Chorus. She had been scheduled to speak about Callista's impact on community healing. Instead, she took the stage with slow, measured steps. She didn't even glance at Callista. She looked straight at the crowd I was asked to speak about. Hope tonight, she said. About family resilience and forgiveness. She paused, and her voice shifted. Not louder, just clearer. But for too long, she continued. This family has smiled in public and shamed in private. Lifted one child onto a pedestal and left another in the shadows. You could hear a pin drop. No more masks, she said. No more curated grief for sponsorships. I will not lie for a photo op. And then she did something no one expected. She walked straight off that stage, crossed the floor, came to me, and without hesitation, wrapped me in the first real embrace I'd felt in years. Flashbulbs went off, phones tilted toward us, voices murmured, but I heard none of it. Only the beat of my heart and the simple truth in her arms. You are not invisible anymore. Callista, she fled stilettos, clicking furiously across the ballroom. The train of her gown caught on a folding chair and nearly took her down. She disappeared through the side exit, like a ghost slipping out of its own seance. I didn't watch her leave, I didn't need to. The silence I had carried for so long had finally spoken, and it roared louder than any of her hashtags ever had. The next morning, sunlight poured through my kitchen window like it was apologizing for every gray day that came before. The house still had cracks, so did I. But nothing felt broken anymore. A month passed. Callista's downfall played out like a slow-motion implosion. Sponsors vanished. Public apologies fizzled. The wellness brand, quietly restructured. The fundraiser, flagged, reviewed, frozen. She posted less and less, then stopped altogether. And for once I didn't care what she'd say next. Because this wasn't about silencing her. It was about finally hearing myself. In that time, I rebuilt not just walls, but trust in my own voice. The porch steps were fixed, the leaky sink patched, the peeling paint covered in a warm terracotta shade that felt like hope. And on the first real spring day, the neighborhood hosted a cleanup event. I set out lemonade and brownies, watched as strangers turned into neighbors, listened as kids chalked messages on my front walk. You matter, welcome home, stronger than you know. No filters, no hashtags, just people. Then, as if summoned by some cruel algorithm, another message from Callista. Hey, things are rough. Any chance we could crash with you for a bit? Just till we figure things out. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just entitlement in a cardigan. I stared at the screen for a long time. And then quietly I typed, "There's no space for lies here anymore. I wish you peace." Then I put the phone down, poured myself a glass of lemonade, and stepped back outside. The $900 house. It wasn't a mistake. It was my foundation. I didn't buy freedom. I built it. And I stopped knocking on closed doors the moment I realized I was always meant to build my own. There's a kind of peace that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with a banner or a grand finale. It just arrives. One morning, I opened my eyes and it was there in the smell of fresh coffee, in the sunbeam on the kitchen tile, in the quiet hum of a space that had finally stopped demanding I prove my worth. The funny thing is, I hadn't changed that much, but I'd finally stopped shape-shifting to be worthy of love that had always come with a receipt. That day, I stood barefoot on the front porch, a chipped mug in hand, watching as two kids argued over sidewalk chalk. One of them was drawing a crooked rainbow. The other was writing, "You're enough" in block letters that stretched all the way to the curb. I smiled, not because it was perfect, but because it wasn't. Nothing about my life was neat, but it was mine, and for the first time in 29 years, that was enough. There's something poetic about a house that everyone calls a dump, becoming the very thing that saves you. I didn't just fix it, I let it fix me. Inside the living room was still rough around the edges. The rug had a corner that wouldn't stay flat. The bookshelf tilted slightly to the left, but it held books I chose. Stories I wanted to read, not the roles I was assigned. In the hallway hung a photo frame, cheap wood glass, slightly scratched. Inside it, a faded snapshot. Me age 8 in a tinfoil crown from a school play. Awkward crooked smile, eyes too big for my face. And in the back, barely in the shot, was Aunt Chorus, clapping like her life depended on it. Beneath the photo, a note in her handwriting. "You always had the light AI." I touched the frame with my fingertips, not like it was fragile, but like it was sacred. Callista didn't follow up after my last message. No long apology, no new account, no PR spin, just silence. And that finally was the best gift she could have given me. I don't hate her. I don't even wish her harm, but I no longer carry her weight. For so long I believed love meant loyalty even when it hurt, even when it erased you, even when you had to disappear just to make someone else shine. But healing. Real healing. It's refusing to disappear anymore. There's a reason I didn't go public with everything. Didn't turn this story into clickbait. Didn't make my own fundraiser or documentary or takedown thread. Because the point wasn't to get even, it was to get free. And I am... Every now and then someone still drives by slowly, a neighbor who once whispered, a distant cousin who unfollowed a former friend who didn't know what to say when it all went down. They slow down expecting to see a mess. They still think I'm the girl with the junk house, but I smile anyway. Because that house, it gave me a front row seat to who I really was when no one was watching. I was never the dramatic one. I was the durable one. They told me to be the bigger person. They just never thought I'd grow this much. And if you're listening to this still wondering if it's worth it, walking away from the table where your name is never said with warmth, let me tell you something. Yes, it is. Even if it costs you comfort. Even if you have to sit alone at first. Even if they call you selfish, dramatic, bitter, broken. Let them. Because when you finally stop knocking on doors that never opened for you, you discover the strength to build your own. And when you do, you don't just find peace, you find you. So now here I am, standing on a porch that once felt like a prison and now feels like a promise. My story isn't about revenge, it's about reclamation. I didn't burn bridges. I built boundaries. I didn't ruin the family. I revealed the rot. And if you've ever had to choose between being loved and being free, then I hope you choose what I did, even if it starts with a $900 house. Because sometimes the life you build from scratch is the only one that ever truly belongs to you. So tell me, have you ever had to walk away from people you once called home? Have you ever chosen peace, even when it cost you love? Drop your story below. I read every single comment. If this story hit you in the gut like it did for me, consider subscribing. We tell the quiet stories here, the true ones. The ones you don't see on timelines, but you feel in your bones. And remember, you're not too much. You're not too late. You're not alone.